Hello and welcome to my review of the Lumineth Realm Lords Archmage Teclis and Celennar, Spirit of Hysh for Warhammer Age of Sigmar from Games Workshop. This model will set you back a whopping £105. It's an absolutely magical amount of money for what constitutes two sprues. Firstly, I'll go through my experience of building him and we'll look at all the detail. Then we'll go through a plethora of size comparisons with other Lumineth Realm Lords and some models from other factions. And then finally, I'll go through all of his magical rules. So the first thing I want to say is, you know, the box is lovely. I mean, it stands out well. You've got lots of detail on there. It draws you into both of their poses. I think Celenar's pose is all right, but Teclis's is, yeah, very strange with both of those weapons upright at such an angle. But the scenic base side of things is fantastic. It does lull you it does lull you into a false sense of security, I guess, with all of the tufts of grass that they've used. They've used an awful lot of tufts of grass. As you can see there, well, you're going to have to add all of those. However, if you choose to do that, all the grass is going to blend in well with the wheat and the bonsai trees, and yeah. But yeah, the box, if you've seen my unboxing, it's one of these where it's got a slipcase around it. I always prefer those type of boxes, especially for a model of this price. On the rear, it's got an alright painting guide, and it highlights specific details of the model. The instruction guide itself does a good job. The only difficulty I had was with these rune things. I struggled to see exactly where the rope and tassels went, but everything else went together relatively straightforward, except for maybe Celenar's collar. And it was a bit of a shuffle to get the cloak glued onto the Celenar's wings. Now, I did actually make Teclis himself, not Celennar in the base, but I did make Teclis himself in my live stream, and I did that on the Saturday evening. I had great fun in the live stream, and I can't promote it enough. It's such good fun hanging out with you all. My live streams are on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesdays it's 7 till 9 and Saturdays it's 8 till 10. I also started painting the Necron Seraptech. So if you can join for those live streams, that's better. And afterwards I do make them available to watch for members. So moving back onto the model then. Okay, so this is Teclis and Celennar themselves. As I say, had a bit of a difficulty gluing the cloak to the wing. That's the only contact point there. I think it works quite well though. And as I said at the beginning, I would have had his staff and his sword in a different position. Still rising above Celennar, but have them sort of pointing down in judgment maybe. The scenic base is absolutely beautiful. I didn't have any issues there with all of the bonsai trees and things. There are a few mould lines that you need to be wary of, and it does suck that they're on the top there. But I tried my best to sort of file them down. The wings are lovely, lots of detail there, and they're layered, and they have different patterns of layering. I don't know if you can see some of that detail. I'll try and zoom in for you. And I like the rune ball things around Celenar's neck. And she's got a really big long tail. And there are bits and pieces of detail around the base and the sort of broken temple. I like the mask on Celennar as well. She's alright to sort of put on the broken temple. And as I say, he was very tricky to put together. So I mentioned that in the stream once or twice. But yeah, these rune things and where the rope goes is very tricky because they're quite small. But the headpiece went on alright, and so did the tassels and his little boots and his cloak. You may want to have this as sub-assembly if you're going to do it. I would probably suggest that if you don't need to build it all in one go like I had to for this review. Maybe I could have got away with some blue tack and holding them both in place. But personally, I would have Celennar off the runes and have him off the runes, and then just paint all three individually and then glue them once they're all complete. But yeah, on this massive base, yeah, definitely a focal point for your Lumineth Realm Lord's army, you know, the other focal point being Alarith as well. So I'll just show you some size comparisons with other Lumineth Realm Lords models. I've recently built the Sentinels. Or the Bowmen. So that's how it sort of stands next to one of those. And then you've got the Wardens, again, absolutely dwarfs the normal sort of troop choices. I've got the Cathalar, which I've recently built. Her review will be coming soon. And then I've got some Venari Dawn Riders. And finally, the Light of Eltharion. So that gives you an idea of just where Teclis stands. He's easily the tallest, largest model in Lumineth Realm Lords. I'm interested to see how these Spirits of the Mountains are. Looking at the sizes in the army book, it looks like they're going to be a little bit shorter just because of his wavy hair and his weapons, but they're probably going to be the same height or a bit taller than Alarith, so I'd guess at about there, you know, from there downwards. So they're going to be the second tallest model. We'll see. I'm going to get one this weekend, and next week I'll squeeze in a review. Now, a couple more size comparisons I wanted to make was just with the Spheranx, because, you know, this is the last time we saw a creature of similar kind of size, I'd say, and the Spheranx is similar, if not a little bit smaller, but a lot shorter tail and a longer neck. But yeah, similar kind of size to a Spheranx. So if you've had a Spheranx recently, then you know kind of what you're getting yourself into in terms of the size of one of these next to Celennar. And then compared to another sort of ever chosen models, I've got a Chaos Warrior, and then Chaos Lord on a Karkadrak. Gives you a sort of sense of scale. But I can hear what you're thinking. Super, how big is Teclis compared to the second most expensive Games Workshop model, Archaon? Well, I do have Archaon. I haven't released the unboxing and review video of him yet, because I wanted to get these elves out of the way. But here he is. He is a whopper. He's on the same size base, and he is just huge. I can barely fit him in, but there we go. If you're on the fence of which model to buy, get Archaon, hands down. There's just no contest. You'll have more fun in building him. The wings have a decent amount of detail on, and so do the scales and the tail, and you've got 3 different Chaos God heads, and you've got a bit of a scenic base. Of course, not as detailed scenic base as Teclis, but for less money and a cooler model, in my opinion, I'd go for Archaon. The other Chaos miniatures are pretty good. I mean, the Start Collecting set is fantastic for Ever Chosen, but they just don't have a good Chaos Warrior or Knight separate box set like, you know, these Realm Lords have. I wish they did, and I wish they did renew them and a few of the other models in that range. But I just wanted to show you that size comparison there between these two sort of centerpieces, focal points, and I'd say in a way monstrous creatures in a way for the particular armies, the big leaders for them. Okay, so now you've reached my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules, and you'll find the rules for Teclis and Celennar in your brand new Lumineth Realm Lords Battle Tome. He's right at the front of all the unit profiles. He will set you back 660 points, meaning he's 3 times more expensive than the Light of Eltharion, and he's almost twice as expensive as the Spirit of the Mountain. He's a leader and a behemoth, and he's unique. So stat line reads, his movement speed is affected by the wounds suffered. It's kind of like the opposite of how 40k work out their movement speeds. They've got 16 wounds, save of 4+, and bravery 10. Just comparing that to like the Light of Eltharion, which is the next choice. Light of Eltharion has a better save, but the same bravery, but Teclis has 16 wounds, so more than double the number of wounds. I'll go through the movement and damage table in a moment, but I'll just start off with the weapons. So Teclis is a named character that is a single model. He is armed with the Sword of Teclis and the Lunar Staff, and he carries the Discs of Elementary. Teclis is accompanied by Celennar, Spirit of Hysh, who attacks with moonbright talons. For rules purposes, Celennar is treated in the same manner as a mount, and this model can fly. So, the weapons. The Lunar Staff. It's a range 18-inch, 1 attack, 2+ to hit, 2+ to wound, -3 to rend, and a damage of d6. Pretty nice. Only got 1 attack though. The melee weapons. Sword of Teclis. Range 1 inch, 2 attacks, 4+ to hit, 2+ to wound, -3 to rend, and a damage of d3. That's alright. And then the Moonbright Talons. It's a range 1 inch. If Celennar has all wounds, then you're going to get 6 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, -2 to rend, and a damage of 2. Now let me go through this damage table. So as I said, it works in the opposite way as 40k. So it starts off with wounds suffered 0 to 4. So when there's only up to 4 wounds suffered, then the movement speed of this model is 12 inches. Moonbright Talon attacks is 6, and the Aura of Celennar, which I'll go through in a moment, is 16 inches. Wounds between 5 and 7 is movement of 10 inches, 5 attacks, 12-inch Aura. Wounds between 8 and 10, movement speed is 8 inches, attacks are 4, Aura is 8 inches, wounds suffered between 11 and 13, movement is 6 inches, attacks is 3, Aura is 6 inches, and then finally if the model suffers 14 or more wounds, and remember they've got 16, the movement drops all the way down to 4 inches, Moonbright Talon's attacks is only 2, and the Aura drops down to 4 inches. So, abilities. Archmage. At the start of your hero phase, you must say if this model will cast 1 spell, 2 spells, or up to 4 spells. If this model will cast 1 spell, when it attempts to cast that spell, it is automatically cast, and it cannot be unbound. So that's pretty decent. You want to cast just 1 spell? Done. If this model will cast 2 spells, when it attempts to cast those spells, each is automatically cast with a casting roll of 12 that cannot be modified. Do not roll 2d6. Enemy wizards can attempt to unbind these spells. So again, 2 spells, automatically cast, but wizards can unbind them. If this model will cast up to 4 spells, when it attempts to cast those spells, each is automatically cast with a casting roll of 10 that cannot be modified. Enemy wizards can attempt to unbind these spells. So again, similar to 2 spells, but casting roll of 10. Aura of Celennar. This is what I touched upon in the damage table. You add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for friendly Lumineth Realm Lord units within range of this model's Aura of Celennar ability. The range of Aura of Celennar ability for this model is shown on the damage table above. We went through that. The Discs of Elementary. In your hero phase, in addition to casting 1, 2, or up to 4 spells, this model can automatically dispel 1 endless spell. Do not roll 2d6. In the enemy hero phase, this model can automatically unbind 1 enemy spell. Again, do not roll 2d6. Fantastic. So you can dispel an endless spell and unbind a normal enemy spell. Seeing Stone of Celennar. Each time a friendly unit within range of this model's Aura of Celennar ability is affected by an endless spell or a spell cast by an enemy wizard, you can roll a dice. On a 4+, ignore the effects of that spell or endless spell on that unit. Then pick 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of that unit. That enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. The range of the Aura of Celennar ability for this model is shown on the damage table above. Amazing. Sort of like if you've got your friendly unit within 16 inches because you've got no wounds suffered, and an enemy wizard hits them with a spell or endless spell, 50-50 chance of ignoring it, and then you've got an enemy unit within 18 inches of that unit, they then suffer d3 more. So it's kind of like a almost like a void shield, but like reflecting the damage back. It's like a reflect, if you know, from many of the RPGs. And then finally, magic. Teclis is a wizard. The number of spells that he can cast is determined using the Archmage ability on the left. He can attempt to unbind any number of in the enemy hero phase. He knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, Protection of Teclis, and Storm of Searing White Light spells. We'll go through those in a moment. It's going to be a long video, guys. Protection of Teclis. Protection of Teclis has a casting value of 10. If successfully cast, until your next hero phase, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound on a friendly unit wholly within 18 inches of the caster. On a 5+, that wound or mortal wound is negated. This spell cannot be cast in the same hero phase as Protection of Hysh. There you go. Storm of Searing White Light. It has a casting value of 10. If successfully cast, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 4, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, but on a 5+, that unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Horrific. Horrific, this Storm of Searing White Light spell. So we've gone through Protection of Teclis and Storm of Searing White Light spells. Let's just go through Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield. So if you were wondering where to find these two spells, they're just in the core rules, and you can find them for free on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar app. So Arcane Bolt has a casting value of 5, so very low. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. That unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If the casting roll was 10 or more, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds instead. And then Mystic Shield has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a friendly unit within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. Reroll save rolls of 1 for that unit until your next hero phase. On top of all that, Teclis knows all of the spells for the Lore of Hysh, which I'll go through because this is your first kind of experience of them, I guess. It says Teclis, Light of Altharion, Cathalars and Vanari Wizards only. So that's the Lore of Hysh. He also knows the Lore of High Peaks, which only Teclis and Alarith Wizards know, which would be the Stone Mage. But it wouldn't be the Stone Guard or the Spirit of the Mountain because they're not wizards. They're just elves and monsters. So a couple of spell tables here. So we'll start off with the Lore of Hysh. The D6 of 1 is Speed of Hysh. Has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Lumineth Realm Lords unit wholly within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. Double the move characteristic of that unit until your next hero phase. That could be useful for the Dawn Riders. 2 is Solar Flare. Has a casting value of 8. If successfully cast, pick a point on the battlefield within 10 inches of the caster and visible to them. If there is an endless spell at that point, it is dispelled. And if there is a unit at that point, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit. For each 6+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. In addition, until your next hero phase, subtract 2 from casting, dispelling and unbinding rolls for wizards within 12 inches off that point. Nice. 3 is Lambent Light. Lambent Light has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. Until your next hero phase, you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target that unit. 4. Ethereal Blessing has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Lumineth Realm Lords unit wholly within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. Until your next hero phase, ignore modifiers positive or negative when making save rolls for attacks that target that unit. 5 is Total Eclipse, has a casting value of 8. If successfully cast, until your next hero phase, your opponent must spend 2 command points to use a command ability instead of 1. And 6, Protection of Hysh, has a casting value of 8, and if successfully cast, until your next hero phase, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly unit wholly within 9 inches of the caster. On a 5+, that wound or mortal wound is negated. This spell cannot be cast in the same hero phase as Protection of Teclis. And then the Lore of the High Peaks, another spell lore table. So on a 1, you've got Unyielding Calm. Has a casting value of 4. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Lumineth Realm Lords unit wholly within 18 inches of the caster. Until your next hero phase, do not take battle shock tests for that unit. 2 is Crippling Vertigo. Has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy unit wholly within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. Until your next hero phase, roll 2d6 before that unit makes a normal move, a charge move or a pile-in move. If the roll is greater than that unit's bravery characteristic, it cannot make that move. And 3, Voice of the Mountains. Voice of the Mountains has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast until the end of the turn, subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units. Then, until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units instead. 4, Living Fissure has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 point on the battlefield within 9 inches of the caster that is visible to them, and draw an imaginary straight line 1 millimeter wide between that point and the closest part of the caster's base. Roll a dice for each unit that has models passed across by this line. On a 2+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. 5, Entomb. Has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy model within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them, and roll a dice. If the roll is greater than that model's wounds characteristic, that model is slain. If the roll is a 6 but not greater than the model's wound characteristic, that model suffers D6 mortal wounds. Wow, pretty good. And then 6, Assault of Stone. Has a casting value of 8. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit wholly within 24 inches of the caster and visible to them, and roll a number of dice equal to the casting roll. For each roll that is less than that unit's save characteristic, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Rolls of 1 or 2 always fail to inflict a mortal wound on the target. A save characteristic of hyphen counts as a 6 for the purposes of this rule. So lots and lots of spells. I know this has been a long review, but he is the Archmage, arguably the best mage in the entire game. Fantastic rule set. If you like wizards and you like magic, then this guy and Celennar are going to be right up your street. Yeah, of course they don't have that many attacks in combat that don't do a huge amount of damage, but where they shine is buffing your army and letting go of all those spells. There's lots and lots of spells to choose from. On top of protection of Hysh and the normal Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield, he's also got 2 specific spells for him, which is the protection of Teclis and the Storm of Searing White Light, as well as 12 other spells to choose from the Lumineth Realm Lord's spell laws, which is incredible. When you think about it, he's got 16 spells to choose from, is the way I'm reading it. So yeah, right up your street. There are spells all over this unit, and I'm sure you'll find a couple that you'd like to try out and use against your opponent. The keywords is Order, Elf, Lumineth Realm Lords, Monster, Hero, Wizard, Teclis. So there you go, 660 points. What an expensive unit, but wow, they will both do a lot of damage out on the battlefield with all those spells and buff your units. I'm not a huge fan of the look of this model. I much prefer Archaon, but he does go very well with the rest of the Lumineth Realm Lord models, of course, and if you've got that army, they're going to be a lovely focal point for your army, and work really well to buff them if you're interested in the gaming aspect. As a model, as a collector's piece, I do find that you get more from Archaon. Anyway, what do you guys think of Teclis and Celennar? They are certainly more expensive than I expected, maybe due to the price increase, maybe because Lumineth are brand new, and also maybe because they're a bit of untested water, and Games Workshop, I think, maybe don't expect them to sell many models. That's one of the reasons why they price them high. Games Workshop don't operate in the same way other businesses do, where if they think it's not going to sell well, they'll cut themselves out, they'll give you a bit of a discount to sell more. They just don't do that, unfortunately. He is at least £20 more than I expected him to be. I thought it'd be £80 or so. Same price as like a Greater Demon when they came out. I certainly wasn't expecting over the £100, because it's breached that limit now. Before, all the models were 100, including the Knight Castellans and things. Now they are breaching that at 105. You know, more expensive than Archaon. Anyway, what do you guys think of this model and the rules? Please do put it all in the comments below. Do join us all in Discord, where I'm available, and it's quicker for me to reply to your comments and things there rather than here on YouTube. And one of the Discord members has actually pretty much painted their model, and it looks fantastic. So yeah, if you want to see a lovely painted version, please join us over on Discord. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Teclis protects.